Welcome to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam.
This looks like a very competent panel we're going to have here. So let's hope it will also not just be so on paper, but in real life. I'm Jacob. I'm going to be moderating. I'm the lead DevRel at Filex Systems. I'll just give one line about what we are doing and then get on with the show. And we are building a new security primitive that allows protocols to define states that they never want their protocols to reach. You can check my talk tomorrow for more detail, but I'd rather hear what you guys have to say. I'm joined today by, now you're not in the order, I have the names. Liz, CEO, Managing Director of Least Authority. Christopher van Hessert, VP, Head of Security of Polygon. Eric, Arvidsson, who is Head of Operational Security at Euler, and Eric Meng, Senior Blockchain Security Engineer at Coinbase. So I think we have a pretty good panel lined up here. I'll just set the scene a little bit. So since beginning of 2024, we have around $3.5 billion lost to hacks. That's not a small amount of money. Smart contract vulnerabilities don't even make up for the biggest part. Usually, it's still a lot. And usually there are fewer of these, but much bigger amounts and impact. But actually, compromised keys and compromised devices, etc., scams, they make up for the biggest part of this amount. And that's even excluding the 1.5 billion from the safe front end that was compromised. So basically, today we'll talk a little bit about why we struggle still to keep everyone safe after 10 years of smart contracts, tooling, lessons learned. We still seem to struggle with this. I would like to start just with a quick round of introductions from each of you, and maybe one sentence or two sentences about what you see as the biggest challenges we're currently facing in this space.
Hi everyone, so I'm Christopher. As you mentioned already, I lead security at Polygon Labs. I think one of the reasons why we cannot keep everyone safe, you gotta look at it also from the other way. We are keeping a lot of people safe. If you look at the total value locked that you have right now in crypto, how easy it is to actually be able to hack somebody nowadays with phishing. It's incredibly easy to do it. So I would say, we're trying to do our best. There's definitely a lot of holes to fix, but given how easy it is to hack somebody and how easy it is to access money, I think in general, the job is doing quite well, but there's a lot for improvement.
Thanks. I'm Liz from Least Authority, and I think I agree with you on this. Especially compared to what we see going on in Web 2 and everything. It's not like it's exactly secure either. So I think some of the fundamental design decisions that we've been making that are different from Web 2 are pretty key to Web 3's potential for being more secure in the future. And also, the other thing to keep in mind is the pace of innovation that we're seeing within the space too. So you can say, maybe smart contracts have been around for, has it been 10 years already? Yeah. So we should have some expectations for, best practices in some areas, but in other areas, we're still innovating so rapidly that it's difficult to establish best practices so quickly.
Awesome. I'm Eric. I'm an engineer on our blockchain security team at Coinbase. And I look at this stuff every day. There is just an inherent learning curve that a lot of our users just have to overcome. And it's getting more and more difficult, especially as we expand into DeFi with the recent meme coin era that we're entering as well. And there are things that we're looking at. There are a lot of things that we're doing. However, there are still things that our users also just need to overcome themselves and learn on their own. But guaranteed, we are trying to keep everyone safe, as well as trying to make this space constantly safer for anyone, whether you're a builder or a user or a meme coin trader.
Hi everyone, I'm Eric Arvidsson, Head of Operational Security at Euler Labs. I think like the biggest challenges that we're facing and will continue to face are the social engineering attacks are probably the easiest path. Also supply chain attacks are extremely difficult to protect against. And I think it's always a cat and mouse game. I think education is the primary defense that we have against this, like educating people how to properly store their seed phrase and just like have a good hygiene on managing secrets and how you operate your accounts, what permissions you give, and have like the least privilege, like methodology is always a good are good things that like people have to like implement in order to try to avoid getting exploited or hacked. There's millions of ways that are happening, and it's an ongoing battle of education and I guess like sharing with the community, sharing information, and yeah, I'll give it back to you.
Yeah, cool. I think you already answered a couple of things I wanted to ask you next, Eric, actually. So yeah, for Euler, I think like you guys have been through a lot, but I think you're also an extremely good example of someone who's like recovered and like I just like to see. It's awesome to see that a success story like you guys have been going through. I think, and as you just mentioned, yeah, smart contracts, they are not really the biggest problem. Not always. Like the thing is, when you find a vulnerability in a smart contract, then you're probably really screwed, right? But it doesn't happen that often. But I just like to know, like at Euler, what are you guys doing, like out of the extraordinary, maybe to both keep your like protocol safe, but also your users? We had a small chat last week about this, but I would just like to know, like, what are you guys doing out of the extraordinary, maybe that the rest of us could learn from potentially?
One thing that I noticed that maybe not all the companies in crypto are doing is like setting up like MDM, like managed device management to like protect all of our employees' devices. Also setting up EDR, defenses for like when a computer gets compromised, how to isolate, like reverse engineer the attack, see what information was leaked. Proper patch management on computer devices. Another thing we put a lot of emphasis is like protecting email and communication. Those are like the biggest vectors that we're seeing right now, like sending a malicious like email with a PDF and then exfiltrating information from that person, compromising. Now you have this whole new type of attacks regarding like what is it called, the people like going through the interview process, sharing information. That's a big one. We're also seeing people just lurking, actually providing value in Discord, and just waiting for somebody to ask a question, like send them a DM, hey, I can help you, impersonating people, impersonating our executives at Euler. Like there's always a battle. We use Chain Patrol to kind of like do DMCA takedowns on websites that are malicious, take down like on Telegram, LinkedIn, Twitter. There's like thousands of things that we can like, we need to be always like wary, because like impersonating, I think, is also a very key element, like where it's very easy to create a new account, right? Like anybody can create a new account, and it's very easy to get like 1,000 followers on your account. Like I've done it, and it's like it's not a complicated thing to. The other day I saw that there was a Visual Studio extension. I think I don't remember the name exactly, but like it had even more likes than the actual official one. So
it was the official Solidity Visual Studio extension.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. If any one of you has anything to add for Eric's question, that would be great as well. But I think a follow-up might be, you talk about these MBR stuff on people's laptops, stuff like that. And I think it's not necessarily security related, but I feel like that's also can be an uncomfortable thing maybe for employees. At least I know someone who once worked at one of the companies represented here, and he never used his work laptop because he didn't like the fact that there was MBR on it, and he used his private laptop because they don't like the surveillance kind of feeling, right? So
There's two flavors. So there's the MDR, like CrowdStrike, Sentinel-1, that is just monitoring like a behavioral of like what process they're doing, what data they're collecting, and it's mostly just tracking if like you start like exporting data from like, you can even put like canary files, like let's say in your in your home user directory, you can put like a file that like called secrets, and if anybody reads it, then that's a big flag that somebody's like crawling through your computer. But it's just like, specifically for MDR, it's mostly just seeing what processes are running and what like shell operations. Then you have other ones that I think the ones that people get creeped out, they're like Netscope. Netscope is a great tool, but it's also extremely painful for the security team operating because you basically get like full oversight on all the network connection. It's like a man in the middle for a company. It does protect the users, but I'm not like, yeah, in terms of privacy, having that level of access of like, hey, you send this message or you send this document to somebody, please ask your IT team, then you have like full visibility of everything. But it's just the level of things. I think MDR is a good approach, and it's not like, you actually have logs of who's accessing what information. So there's good traceability. It's not like I can go and just watch everything that my colleagues are doing, but yeah. I think there's different levels. Netscope would be good for like a bank or like more sensitive operations where you need to monitor every single transaction. But I think just having like protection at the computer level and being able to determine, hey, somebody just installed malicious, or just run JavaScript from like a library and they're starting to like do a C2 and like install a payload and then get privileged access on the computer, you should have visibility of that happening because that's transparent. I mean, it's not transparent. It's happening in the background, and it's a very easy way to know that, you know, somebody's actually, that is not intended, has access to your computer.
I think playing a little devil's advocate, what I hear a lot is it's also a little bit of, you know, you're kind of installing a root certificate in your laptop that is allowed to do everything. So, you know, privacy, you know, we're here because of privacy. Privacy comes to a certain, you know, you're trusting that CrowdStrike or Falcon or even your own company will not do anything malicious or will not be looking at it. You know, some of the concerns that I've seen, especially for public people, you know, people that are very publicly exposed, you know, they don't want to install these things because, you know, a government could subpoena, you know, somebody like Falcon or stuff like that to actually have access to their laptop. Obviously, there's no perfect solution, and obviously we at Polygon use very much MDRs and everything else, so completely advocate for the idea of this. The only thing I would say is, you know, if you're really, really concerned about these things, first of all, separate your life with your work life. You know, most people that are concerned, it's because they're using their work laptop in order to do, you know, personal stuff. And second of it, if you're concerned that they could use that machine as a man in the middle to get access to your home network and everything else, segregate the network. Just get another internet connection or complete, if you're good at it, and I guess you are if you're so concerned about it, just segregate your network. Make sure that that laptop is only able to connect to a specific VLAN that has no access to everything else in your house. No? And obviously do the same with your kids and your wife and your dog, because, you know, they can hack any of those things in your washing machine.
Talking, just I wanted to add to that, like if you really want to go that like route, I highly recommend looking into CubeOS and like Graphene and having like different profiles for different operations that you run. But I hope everybody uses them. They're great tools, and I highly advocate that everybody starts using it.
Yeah, for sure. Like good advice. And next question was actually going to you, Christopher, as well. A little bit in the same direction. Like Polygon has a very good track record, I think, of staying fairly on the good side of everything. Probably because you've been doing a lot of security-related stuff very early on. In the same way, a little bit. Are you guys doing anything that wasn't just mentioned by Eric? Any other tips that you have or that you tell your employees to follow?
I think, like it was mentioned before, and Eric mentioned again, social engineering is the #1 concern. It is incredibly easy to social engineer anybody in the company. So having layers, as explained right now, is very important. One of the things that we do at Polygon, and I've done before in my past as well, that really resonates with users, people, and everything else, is learn by example. You know, I assume everybody here is tired of having to click through the same security awareness training with, you know, Jane and Doe and, you know, Jane over talking about stuff and things like that. Like, I'm tired of doing it. Everybody just click through because it's boring and annoying, but it's a compliant thing that a lot of companies need to do. Another way of doing this that actually works is showing real hacks. Like when the Bybit hack and the Polygon, the first thing we did the day after it happened, we literally invited the whole company to a Google Meet, and we explained to the whole company how this hack happened, what we knew at least at this moment. And then a week after, when we got more information about it, we jumped on that Google Meet again with the whole company, and we explained, you know, what is the aftermath of everything else. And I was surprised of the amount of people that joined that Google Meet. Like normally, if security does a Google Meet, like who wants to join a talk about security, guys? Like, no, nobody, but we actually got a lot of attention. So we continue doing some of the things where we actually, you know, just demonstrate how easy it is to hack. And if it happens to one of you or one of your colleagues, put them on the spot, like invite them, put them in, like, there's nothing more real and translates better than somebody that went through it and says like, yeah, this is what happened. And the truth is like, yeah, I was dumb. I didn't check. I didn't verify. I just clicked all through and, you know, this is what happened. And I think this is the best way for people to learn and educate themselves and be vigilant. Now, another very easy recommendation, apart from the typical use our wallets and stuff like that I do right now, is have a separate operating system profile or a browser Chrome profile only to do transactions. Like a lot of the phishing and the malware and everything else are coming through VS Code, well, obviously VS Code extensions or through Google Chrome extensions and stuff like that. So if you have just a separate profile in your computer or a separate profile in your browser, that already will help a lot. And it's not too, you know, it doesn't affect too much your user experience. Having a separate laptop as well, ideal, especially if you're like in finance and you're signing transactions every day because that's your job. You should have a very tight, you know, computer only for transactions that is only used for that. And the same goes to the, you know, home, you know, hygiene. Like if you're using your laptop to, you know, watch porn and lend to your kids, homework and everything else, you may not want to be doing crypto stuff as well in the same one.
100% to that. And the idea of like even like air gapping, making sure that that laptop that you are using is just generally not online unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I mean, Christopher just touched on it all. I think there's the user education piece, absolutely, from what Eric said as well, and the internal company education piece is huge. I mean, yes, we hate clicking through all of the, you know, standard annual cyber awareness training. However, it is absolutely important that our company does know and our employees do know like how the technical workings of these vulnerabilities happen. That way they're more prepared, and when they feel like the hairs on their neck tickling if they get an interview call from somebody that they might suspect is from North Korea or somewhere that isn't legitimate, like they will be able to see those signs a lot earlier and flag to security as well. Like this, it really is, I think the overall theme is just, you have to live with security as a mindset in your daily life. Like it doesn't just stop at work, it doesn't just stop at crypto, it is a daily thing that you have to embody.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, like, one of the biggest pain points of like having to carry two computers is like, I know at least up to MacBooks M2, there's now this new Linux operating system that you can install like as a multi-boot, so you can always boot to like this different environment, and you can have it completely just for like, you know, signing operations. Also using VMware or VirtualBox are great ways to segment like your risk or where you do certain things. Like the more you like isolate, compartmentalize like security things that are, you're just gonna do one thing, the better it is, because like you're not like mixing everything, like having a developer environment and also using it for like doing critical security operations for signing, it's always a risk. So the more you segment and isolate your daily work or your personal life, the better. It's better for you, better for privacy, better for everything.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like that holds true also not just for working in a big company, but also it's a very good tip for how you handle as a private person just who's into crypto. Like, yeah, separate your concerns, have the standard hardware wallet. Yeah, that's a good thing, but like really maybe have 2 different laptops as well.
Same for wallets, like, you know, probably this is very known in traditional finance, like you have a small box and a big box, I don't know in Spanish, caja chica, caja grande, but, you know, where you have the big box are in one very safe compartment, you know, wallet, hardware wallet, multi-sig, stuff like that, but your daily transactions in crypto, you do it from another, you know, smaller wallet and separate that. So if you are meme coin trading, you probably are not going to meme coin trading with your Bitcoin savings that you've been holding for ages, no?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I actually have a laptop that hasn't been online for 9 years that I sometimes use to sign transactions as well. Just as
Oh, wow.
it's a very. I mean, the user experience is so bad that that's mainly why I don't use it for anything.
You need security
it's
updates.
a good way to just make sure you don't sell your crypto. Just make it so difficult that it's almost impossible to touch it. Okay, though, I want to change the talk a little bit. So, Liz, you're working like you're the CEO of an auditing company, right, or a security company. Yeah. So I guess you are seeing both sides of the battle. So I want to know a little bit about what are you guys like doing to try to stay ahead of the bad guys, kind of, and what do you see the bad guys doing to try to get ahead of you? It is very much like this cat and mouse game in the auditing and the general security space.
Yeah, I mean, security kind of always is like that. And so for every advancement and every innovation that we make, we also have to think about how could this be misused. And so for us, it's really important to think like a hacker, to think about, like, if we were to break something, this is how we would do it. If we were to try to do something that we're not supposed to do, this is how we would do it. And so, I mean, that's the simple answer to that. It's very challenging though in the crypto space because we see a wide range. Some of it's more challenging, some of it's not so much. Because again, some of the things that are out there have been out there for a while, and we know how to do it better. Like we all do. There's best practices around certain management within wallets, key management and stuff. And then smart contracts and things. There's certain vulnerabilities that are, we all know about. And so that's where the education for people comes in to help to, extend awareness and stuff and the best practices. But then on the other side, there's innovation happening where, people are doing new things to try to solve some new problems. And that's where it's much, much more challenging and much more risky to find the security vulnerabilities. So, yeah, I mean, there's not really an easy answer to the cat and mouse game. It's just like we're all in it and we have to stay like aware and keep going.
Yeah, I was not really looking for an easy answer either. I just wanted to hear like if there's like something that you guys are actually doing in that regard. And I think what you just mentioned about like thinking like a hacker, it can be a very good exercise to do like on your own setup as well. Like sit down and think like, if someone knew me or like if someone would try to compromise me, what are actually my weak points? I think that can be a good way of thinking, like both in like physical, like where you live, like stuff like that, but also in like your online presence. So I think that's definitely something people can try out and see if there's something they would.
Yeah, and we do have to work sometimes with, especially clients, to work on threat modeling, like just basically this general practice of, what are the threats against us? Like, what do we need to worry about? Where's the incentive? How are we going to slow people down in that, or stop them?
Yeah, absolutely. Do any of you have something to add to this? I think maybe Eric, because you're also doing like smart contract security mostly, right? So maybe if you could just like talk a little bit about or extend on this, because the question I wrote down for you is not that interesting compared to this topic.
I mean, I love technical questions, and as far as the smart contract pieces go, we have a really rigorous CI/CD pipeline for anything that we build on chain. Not only do they go through intensive internal and external audits, we have formal verification, we have 100% code coverage, we do fuzzing on all of them so we understand like what exact states and execution paths are even possible. We're even beginning to experiment a little bit with AI to see what's possible. One thing that's also unique, just because of the blockchain paradigm, is, you guys mentioned this game of cat and mouse. I almost like to think of it as a game of chess. Like there is a way that we can get ahead and stay ahead and counter attack even by seeing the data on the chain, by back testing against like the TTPs that we're seeing out there. And all this in combination with the expertise of our security teams allows us to have an edge where we once didn't. We're not just sitting there waiting for the next 0 day to happen. We can actually prepare for it. And doing those internal, even internal company exercises, tabletop exercises, those are very important in all of our flows as well.
Yeah, totally. And I think like what you just said in the end, like these, both companies doing a lot of this, like actual having a security division that like actually sends out training, phishing mail, stuff like that as well, to just keep people like on their marks all the time. I think that's kind of stuff that also helps educate people. Of course, that is more internally in the companies and is not as easy to do for private people. I don't know if you could do something where you can sign up for a service so you get a phishing email per month that you should actually react to in some way because you should try to call it out. I don't know if that's something to do. Do we have 5 minutes left? I don't know if any questions came in. Okay.
You can hold. You can keep it.
Okay, this was not really a question. Just use Fuzz and donate to Fuzz. Send from Graphine always. So that's good at least. Another 45 million plus was stolen from Coinbase users via social engineering scams in just the last week. What can be done to freeze these funds or recover them? That's a question.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I'm an engineer, not one of the heads of operations here, and I can't speak to the specifics on that. However, those are our main concerns right now, are those targeted attacks. Anything that can target a specific user, anytime someone does OSINT research ahead of time to any of our users, either even just getting their email address, that is something that we're looking at and something that we're tracking. And we're going to keep on developing internal policies as well as external policies to keep fighting those.
Great. And this one is actually, I think this is probably a very good question to end this on, because it's a little bit back to where we started. So all the suggestions we had so far, I think they're all very good, but as I also hinted, they're maybe a little bit advanced for the regular user. So what can be done to improve security for less sophisticated users out of the box? Any tips?
I guess it just depends product to product. I think a good example for us, at least, like for our Coinbase wallet, for instance, we have Blockade integrated with the transaction simulations. So before you even sign your transaction, you can see exactly what crypto is coming out of your wallet or what crypto is coming in. And then we also warn the user ahead of time if they're connecting to something malicious or a malicious website or a malicious dApp. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that we can definitely capture ahead of time out the box. And then also we're doing more research and still investigating and researching on the other security features that we can add in the future.
Sure, but I think that's from like the product perspective. Let's just do a round for every one of you. If you have like a couple of good tips for like what you could do as a not super sophisticated user. Liz, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, from the product perspective, for sure. I mean, we should be doing user research, talking to people about like what default settings will help keep them more secure, making that easier to understand in interfaces, et cetera, like is being worked on. From the customer or the consumer angle, the end user, I mean, for them, it's a difficult time right now, because if you want to start experimenting and getting into these tools, you have to do some education. So I mean, I would recommend people to do some reading, but also this idea of like sharing the security failures, like that users should be, you know, experimenting with low risk amounts to start, and also being very open and sharing about like the security failures that they've had. So yeah, I used the same laptop, or yeah, I said yes to something even though I kind of knew it was probably wrong, and then I lost my money. And if people start experimenting with low risk amounts and sharing their stories, then they can help educate each other in a really nice way and not really rely fully on the products.
I have a couple of things I would like to add. I think two very easy things that everybody could do is check your email. I have been pwned. It's a great resource to see if your email, or not just your email being leaked, but also what passwords have been leaked. That's like super easy. I know most people tend to use the same password for everything, use a password manager. And lastly, also pretty easy for everybody to do, although you're probably going to hate it, is wipe your computer at least once a year. Have external backup, you know, if you don't want to lose your files, but wiping your computer, starting afresh. You're collecting so much like programs that you install, and you're clearly not updating them because you haven't run them in 6 months. They're just there, and there's other new attack vectors that attackers use. So, you know, wiping your computer is a healthy thing to do.
For sure. Christopher?
I would say the last one, which is very simple. You know, everybody talks about trust, but verify. Like, just read what you're doing. Like, really, just read. Like, I make this mistake as well, and I see everybody. You know, I see my wife at home. I see kids. I think nobody wants to read what's happening. Like, we've gone to a place where, you know, there's a lot of information out there. Even MetaMask, Rabby, Phantom, you know, and Ledger, they've implemented a lot of things. It's not super intuitive, but they implemented a lot of things to warn you about stuff. So if you see, you know, the warning emoji, just like read and like read it all, and then decide, okay, yeah, okay, I'll sign this, I'll click on this, because I can assure you that, you know, at least half of the mistakes happen because people just click through and don't read. And I know it's annoying, I don't read either, but, you know, we should try to do it more.
Yeah, for sure. And I think especially as Europeans, we've just been broken by these cookies. Okay, thank you very much. This was amazing. Give a big round of applause to the panelists. Thank you, guys.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And Chris, nice to see you here again as well.
I'm local, so easy for me.
Perfect. Oh, I got my hands really full. One fun fact, because some people have been asking some questions, what the fuck is this? There's actually a public key and there's a public address and a private key inside. And so this is from something called Copernicus. And the goal is that actually there's a bunch of NFTs and crypto that people have sent to this, but the only way to ever unlock it is to break it, as a random fun fact. So they're going to be knocking around, I think, over the next couple of days if you have questions about it, but that's what that is.